well. Sorry, I'm still kind of getting set up. We're running a little bit late. I got caught up in conversation this morning and still getting settled in here. So, if you'll excuse me here. Excuse the clothing on the back there. I did laundry last night and I have yet to put any of it away. So, I actually live in I'm living in someone's basement. It's a friend of mine. They were kind enough to let me stay here after I had to move out of my apartment. Anyways. Okay, so this morning I'm getting the Canon system hooked up. I'll give you a brief glimpse of what that looks like here. Let me replace this. Replace anyways. That should be good. Yeah, I think we're good. Turn that off. Turn this back on. And then have to turn this back on. And then I actually need to come over here and make sure I load this object in here. Excuse me. So you see in the sort of menu system I've sort of thrown together here. Now that I actually have a dedicated programmer on the team, he and I are going to sit down and look at working on some of this stuff and getting it sort of definitely hammered out and getting some of the functionality worked out a little bit better. There's definitely things I would like to change. We're also thinking about doing a complete redesign of the menu, bringing it from the 2D space into the 3D space. So yeah, we're still in early access, very much still in early access, so this isn't something that's going to go or that has been on for very long, so there's still a lot of room to improve, still lots of changes planned. This interior right here, for instance, this is all artwork that I've thrown in here for the sake of getting something in here to break up the textures a little bit. Much of this is going to get replaced or just outright removed in some instances, depending on what it is. But much of it is definitely, pretty much all of it's going to get replaced. So don't get attached to much just yet. All right, so let's come in here. Give our opening cutscene, like we're trying to boot the game up normally. Excuse me. Let me know, or give me 1 second here. I'm gonna let that do its thing. Forgot I was wearing this hoodie. Try not to use other people's stuff while I'm working on my stuff, but I forgot to take it off. I'm not going to worry about it just now. Ba-do. have to read that here in a bit. Alright, so let's load this one. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit here. I'm going to go away from the joystick and cockpit setup and go with the third-person mouse setup, but we're also going to look at this. That one's not working just yet. Alright, so it's a little hard to see, but you can actually change the cannons, and while it's not completely hooked up yet, which is one of the goals for today, different cannon sizes will fire different projectile sizes. So you change your cannons, increase your damage output, but it also affects your firing rate. So if you prefer a faster firing rate, but are okay with a lower damage output, you can go with the small cannons. I don't think that's actually saving just now. It's something I was kind of working on. I'll get back to work on it here shortly. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll make sure we save here. Get my audio levels under control here. Alright, so we're gonna go on a patrol.
Initiating launch sequence over planet Frontier's reach.
Pulling patrol duties this morning, pilot. I'll
I've
leave
got
the
this
hangar
new
bay open so you can land whenever you like.
crosshair in here,
Give them what for.
and I'm working with the 2D guy to work on this because it's just entirely too thin. It actually looks very different when it's like taking up most of the screen, and I think that was maybe possibly the intention, but I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to UI, just a little bit, and I would like to try and keep big UI graphics off the screen. I know that some people dig that stuff, but I would much rather give you a clear picture of what's going on and try to get as much of the UI built into the ship as possible. Like, there are damaged states that you can see. There's a heating effect around the screen, as well as audio
Approaching
warnings.
thermal limitations. Systems overheating.
Yeah, this is not like playing in the editor while I'm streaming. Come on. Playing in the editor is not the most optimal thing, but when you're trying to bug fix something like this, you have to do it. And that's basically what I'm doing this morning. I don't have the projectiles for the cannon systems hooked up yet, though, so... This is a new redesign for the Kruger Interstellar S-27 Wild Boar that I'm flying right now. This is actually going to be released this week. It is ready to go. And the new cannon systems will be ready this week. I'm going to try and get the designer the 2D guy to work on his or work on the UI, do some more work on the UI, basically help me walk me through how he was envisioning it. We're still kind of communicating and getting everybody on board as much as possible. So there's definitely work to do. Right now, countermeasures kind of auto-launch.
Systems overheating.
May switch that to a manual launch system later, but right now they basically launch if anything gets in close proximity.
Systems overheating. Warning. Excess heat accumulation detected.
It really does feel like a slightly different, well, I shouldn't say slightly different, it feels like a very different game playing in third person versus cockpit. Part of that's because of the mouse control, right? Feels a lot more arcade, I guess you could say, in this mode. But there's actually some different mouse controls that you can use to sort of set up the mouse in various configurations if that's what you really want. So you don't have to, like, you're not stuck using this mouse, and I will add more options if people ask me. Streaming and playing in the editor really just is not conducive to performance, is it?
Hull is at 80%.
Wow. So go ahead and land
Warning.
here.
Excess heat accumulation detected. Extreme temperatures detected. Please vent heat immediately.
Looks like I'm gonna have to make adjustments to the damaged
Warning.
states now that I've changed the
Excess heat accumulation detected.
wing form. It was like sort of straight out, and then I put like a little bit of a cant in it.
Approaching thermal limitations.
Let's hit the 1 key to request landing. Flat cannons have us. International nets caught us. We're in the hangar. And I definitely want to have audio cues for when those things happen eventually. A lot of this stuff is just like it's what I would consider polish. It's not exactly crucial right this moment. One of the things that sort of like I've noticed I've got one of my team members who's kind of on this, you do need somebody to worry about this, but if that becomes too much of the focus early on, then not enough of the back end stuff gets refined and fleshed out. So there's definitely a point in the development cycle where you need to focus on the visuals, but in the earliest of days, the focus really needs to be on the mechanical side, especially if you're a small team. So, yeah, just something to keep in mind. Something I learned doing 3 to 4 years, almost 4 years of software development in for corporate America. So it's wisdom you can take with you, hopefully. And definitely something I bring into my development. Okay, so let's shut down the actual play here. We're gonna go back to this menu because I think I have one more starfighter I have to get rigged up here to the gun system. And we'll go ahead and get that done this morning. It is morning for me, by the way. And if you're anywhere else in the world, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. So the one that I was working on was that one, but I need to do this one next. And that's actually not the right one. Let me turn that one off. And I'm going to turn off my canvas here, because I don't need that just now. That's what that big white thing running through the middle there was. And let's get the shuriken turned on. Okay, so this actually is the older version of the artwork. Let me get the new one in. Come on, here we go. Let's move this one out of the way. And let's move this one back a little bit. Oh, come on. Alright, so that's in place, right? I'm going to unpack this prefab because I don't want this to have any connection with the starfighter that the player is using. Maybe one day we'll get that sort of advanced, but as it stands right now, I actually configure the player's starship based off of data that's stored elsewhere in the game, and that happens when you first spawn in. So I'm basically editing a prefab based off of what you do in the loadout menu, and that data gets stored in another object somewhere else in the game structure. Alright, so we have to get rid of all of this stuff. This is all stuff we just don't need right here. It's all stuff that's going to weigh down the experience when we're on this in this area. Cockpit view, we'll go ahead and delete that. Is that point light in the cockpit? It is. We'll go ahead and delete that too. Delete that. Instrumentation can stay as it should. And then we need, let's see here. Go ahead and get rid of that. And all of this. So the reflections are gone, so that's something we'll have to fix, because we do need the reflections for this environment, and I have a reflection probe set up for that already. We just have to anchor it. So let's go ahead and grab this script. We'll have to fill it out here in a sec. Drop that on here. And then what we need to do is start filling this out. Whoop. So all these are different components of, or different modules, and there will be eventually more modules. And then, let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. So what do we have here? Okay, so That needs to go there. That needs to go there. And we need to make sure we turn this on. It's a little bit of a strange system here, but that's what I found has worked. So now I need to turn all of this stuff on, or expand these rather. I don't necessarily need all of that. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for the mesh renderer that all of these components should be sharing. Chances are I have something selected that does not have a mesh renderer on it. There it is. Reflection probe, anchor. And then we need to go through here. Right? Reflection probe. Come on. Anchor. Slam that back down. Rename. We'll go ahead and delete this. Right. Make sure we add our cannons in here so that it will work with the cannon system. Small, medium, large, save. And then in the art pieces, we want to make sure we replace this prefab. Whoop, looks like I missed one. That's not what I wanted to do. Where did it go? Okay, so I don't need the reflection probe in there. What I need is, come on, do stuff. Is this thing. Come on. There we go. With the reflection probe in it. And I'm going to take this back to the top. I'm actually going to put it right here, so I don't have to scroll all the way up to grab that. Make sure we do apply all for the prefab. And then let's drag that all the way to the bottom, because that's where it should be in the order here. Turn that back on. Then I need to load this into the canvas, or rather the menu. And it should be good to go. Let's go ahead and test it out. If you're just now joining the stream, welcome. I'm Soliloquist, and this is the game Pirates of Frontiers Reach. I'm developing this with a couple of my friends and some strangers I've met on the internet who I'm hoping will, not screw me over and help me make a game so we can all pay our bills, because everybody's pretty much broke right now. I forgot to turn canvas on. This is why we do these tests. It's always the little things. It's like, what was it? Aliens, colonial marines. Like, to fix the AI, all they had to do was change like a single variable somewhere in an editable script. Like I said, it's always the little things. Alright, so I'm gonna look at this one, because I think this one has the... Yep, there it is. So canon amount as well as layout is important. For instance, on something like this, your cannons are going to be wider, so you might not necessarily have the most accurate, the best accuracy for your cannons, depending on the angle of attack and your speed as well, and distance. Excuse me. So I want to test something here. Looks like I'm going to have to update that. See, it says I have 40mm cannons on, but those aren't actually showing, and we'll go to outfit modules. That's a 20mm cannon. You just barely see it. I probably need to fix some of the positioning on the camera. Let's go this one, right? Or rather this one. 40mm cannons in here, and it looks like 20mm cannons here. So what we need to do is I'll show you what the actual 40mm cannons look like. That's what they look like. It's not very apparent from here, partly because I'm playing in the editor, we have a smaller screen, but also partly because I probably need to change the camera angles here to get better, more nuanced angles. May have to do something where I set it up so that depending on what you're looking at, it actually shifts the camera's angle based off of how much space is between the camera and its intended target. So that may take some doing. So here's what we can do though. Right, so we do have this bug, which basically means time to come into the code. Let's see, so I'm actually changing, right, refresh outfit, update cannons. So what we're going to have to do, because I'm actually using all of that data in string, or doing it all with string data, I should say. So here's what we'll do. Int xfer equals 0. Integer dot try parse. We need gman dot player canon selection out xfer. Right, so that'll get us our integer out of that string, ideally. Then we need to update cannons with the xfer, the transfer variable. So now that we've got that transfer variable loaded into the cannons there, it should update when we change starships. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. If it doesn't, we'll have to come back in here and look at the code again. But that should fix the issue. So if you're sort of just coming into this, you're going to create a new pilot with a call sign. I'm thinking about also having like a portrait selection here. So you'll have a bunch of portraits you can choose from to represent your character in the game, or to represent you in the game. Go to loadout. So now the cannons aren't changing at all now. Did I break something? Doesn't appear that we're getting any errors. I think what might be happening is we might not actually be getting the integer I think we should be getting. So let's pull that out. So this is actually called by another method. So two references. What do we got here? The loadout manager. So that's right. That should be working. But this might be getting called somewhere, and I'm just not seeing it. Let's go ahead and save this. Make sure, I wasn't losing my mind, and that it was actually working before I put that in there. Okay, so that does work. Let's look at that button. Let's pause it. Come down here to our canvas. Got our loadout manager. Yep, refresh outfit. So that was being called. That doesn't actually need to be called in this instance. So let's go back here. And this was in our primary. Because we don't need to, we're not actually messing with the outfit just this instance. Right, we're only messing with the cannons. It is part of the outfitting and will eventually, but we don't need to actually refresh the outfit for that. Not just yet. Part of that had to do with the way that things were set up in the outfitting manager, so that you could have a list of modules to select from. It would be interesting to have like a little drag and drop thing later on, but some of that stuff's going to get moved into a three-dimensional UI, which will change how a lot of the design goes. So hopefully well, there's no hopefully, we will get there eventually. Because even if I have to, you know, pick up other work to pay the bills, this is going to continue getting developed regardless. This is something I've been trying to work towards for like since I was 12 years old, so I'm in this for the long haul. From the PS2 vibe, yeah, a little bit. The menu noise is no bueno, yeah. Menu noise probably needs to change. Hello and welcome to the stream. I'm sorry if I don't at first respond to what you say. My chat is sort of off to my far right here. So I will try to remember to check over, or to look over and check out what you guys are saying. So we've got the cannons changing now. And it looks like our artwork is changing too. No, I don't think it did. No! You know what it is? Ha! I forgot to put it back in. Silly me. But I at least got it working. Excuse me. Also, UI programming is ew. Also, UI programming is ew. Yeah, UI programming is pretty not fun. Excuse me, my nose is itching. Let's see here. So that's working. Still no bueno. I think, because let's see if we're actually storing that data in the proper place. Let's check our game manager. And some of this stuff might not necessarily be exposed later on. So we're actually not storing that data in the game manager. That's why it's not being pulled down. So let's make sure we store that data in the game manager, like we're supposed to be. Because that's how we move data between levels and configure the player's starfighter when it first pops up. So, now, the right and proper way to do this is through a get. So I need to set up a get for this variable. Excuse me. And we return, player cannon selection. Which I guess is still an integer, or still a string. So let's do this. Because we don't want to have to try and convert. Let's see, where is it? Refresh outfitting. So I don't have to worry about this, right? We're still going to need the extra value, but I don't want to have to do all of that integer parsing right here. Equals, let's see here, we'll leave it at 0 for now. Control X, integer, get extra value. equals 0. Int dot try parse player canon selection. Nope, nope, not what I wanted. Visual Studio. Still not what I wanted. So frustrating. Out get x for value. Then we return get x for value. So we'll do that there, and then get x for, or the transfer integer here will be gman dot get player primary choice, and that will give us back the thing that's been stored in the game manager. But we also have to store that in the game manager, right? So gman dot set player canon choice canon number. So it's going to want a dot to string. So one of the reasons why I do this stuff in string data is so that when I have to like serialize anything from the game manager, I don't have to do all of the integer transformation just then in that moment. I can basically serialize everything to string data and then just pull things out as I need them, and then eventually might come up with some sort of a little bit more streamlined way of doing it, but that's how I'm doing it right now. Again, a lot of this stuff was sort of slapped together over the course of 3 months. This is mostly just me working to get this thing put together. I have brought on other teams, other team members. One of them is a programmer, and he and I are going to sit down and start going over all of this code and hopefully breaking it down into a very nice and robust API, and maybe even modding toolkit one day. I first want to get a custom mission editor built into the game before we go down the modding tool route, because there's some things that I think, while it would be great to have mod capabilities, something like a mission builder that generates text files that can go up onto the workshop would be really cool. So, and having that inside the game would be even cooler. If you've ever played Jane's combat, code's less janky than mine, honestly. I don't know, I get pretty janky sometimes. You have for loops inside of for loops, or for each loops inside of for each loops, you know. Do this loop while you're doing this other loop. It's crazy. I know there's probably a better way to do it, but that's just what I came up with in the moment. Alright. Let's see here. So yeah, Steam's already integrated. So you'll get the Steam overlay when you play it. Okay, so I'm actually going to take this off full screen. Fingers crossed. I don't need to worry about that just now. Go to loadout. Alright. So we can change primary weapon. It looks like... Yes! Our weapon selection stayed. Ha! And we are indeed... Are we? Yep. We're keeping our cannon selection properly. See this integer right here? This is that data that gets stored. Whoop. Let me get that reselected. That certainly didn't help. So you can see that data changing in real time. 0, 1, 2. Same here. Some of this stuff you still have to like hit save loadout, so especially if you want it to serialize to disk. If you want it to serialize to disk, That's basically how you save it to your player profile. That will eventually get a little bit automated, or get more automated, so like if you make any change whatsoever, it's going to get serialized to the disk. And basically what that means is it gets stored in your player profile. And these do get loaded at runtime. You can have as many as you want. Game data is also being stored to JSON, as well as mission data. So mission data, I'm in the process of getting what I hope is a robust architecture that will allow us to load mission data and even have like things set up so that you can have multiple missions files associated with the same map. So you have the potential to have one large map for each planetary location, and then multiple missions that could take place, and maybe even loading those missions at runtime while the player's playing, so that you could theoretically go from one mission or one complex mission or objective to another one, or have a sort of like a thing set up so that you have a mission that has multiple steps in it and multiple dialogue pieces, but then you could transition in the middle of flight to another mission. So that's all data objects that are stored on disk and can be loaded in at runtime. It's all just text data right now, references as files in the game's architecture, and it is part of the sort of process or tool set that's being built to ensure that we can meet our deadlines of being able to produce content on a weekly basis. Of course, there's always going to be limitations, so it's not like we're going to be adding we're not going to be adding new planetary locations every week. It'll be more like new story content on existing maps, basically. That's the idea. There might be... What I would like to do is shoot for something where we have a new planetary location that's being generated every month and then filled out as well. To give you an example of what some of the tool set that I'm using for that will go here. Something space stuff. So this is the terrain that I'm working with, and to give you a little bit of a preview of what it's capable of. These are 2 kilometer blocks, or 2 kilometer square blocks. 1 unit in Unity is a meter. And these are 2 kilometers square, or 2,000 meters by 2,000 meters, and 600 high. This is a small terrain block. If we cut the terrain up into smaller pieces, we can kind of save on some performance. But right now, everything is set up for, let's see here. We get rid of these. Go back to this. World Creator. And I'm working on a tool to do this at a massive scale, rapidly. Working with the lead programmer to get this done. Let's go ahead and generate. So the idea is we'll create a tool set that will let us basically generate, or an automation tool that will allow us to generate these in a large grid, so that we can sort of sit here, style the terrain the way we want it, and once we've got it where we want it, then we'll generate a whole grid and have a nice big map to play on. Excuse me. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and save this preset. Planetary locations, space stuff test file, and let's go ahead and reload that preset to get another terrain piece. And let's generate it with an offset. So me working on my own, I can sit here and in about 30 minutes have this entire thing filled up. That is a non-issue. However, with an automation tool, this whole process can be sped up drastically. And that is what I intend to build, so that we only have to style a few pieces of terrain, get the general look that we want, generate it on a large scale, and then we can come in and start laying out level. And that's basically how we'll get rapid level design done. And that will let us, I figure we'll probably spend about a month getting a single level up. Of course, one thing to consider is, unlike a first-person shooter where you've got all of these super tiny details that you have to fill out, this is an aerial flight game. What we have to worry about is the large structures. That has to be interesting. It's got to be stuff that you can fly through. So we can spend less time on the minute little details that, go into something like a first-person shooter, and focus more on getting, really fun obstacles built, and really focus on the mechanical and level design part of it. But that doesn't mean that we just get to skimp on some things with regards to tiny details. Sometimes tiny details are worth the effort. For instance, all of the textures are 4K textures, and the art pipeline is set up to basically group as much of the textures together as possible. For instance, this object here uses a detail map, and it's actually the same object, or it's the same texture set that runs these little... It's actually the same texture set and material that runs this. So there's actually a lot of different details that have been put together on atlases for a single shader, or on a single shader, that get used all over the game. So basically, the art pipeline is set up to compound as much of that data as possible into as few objects as possible, to sort of manually batch things, so that we can have really fast load times, and we're not making, just insane amounts of calls to the draw engine to do, really good detail. This texture right here, obviously it's been tiled, but it's been tiled in a way, and especially here on the terrain as well. This is all triplanar shaders with instancing. So the terrain mesh is instance, everything is GPU instance. GPU instancing for everyone, basically. You do need a GPU to play this game, by the way. So unless you've got some integrated graphics solution that is capable of GPU instancing, you will absolutely need a GPU. These worlds are actually quite small. I've been told they don't feel very small from my experience, but I've also gone through and I've controlled scale to a ridiculous degree in an effort to basically get this thing to feel much larger than it actually is. But on that same note, you get four, let's see here. Let me go here. Where's the tutorial level? Here. Because this is actually the biggest playable level that I have currently. This level right here is, let's see here, 3, 6, 9, 12 kilometers. So this is 12 kilometers by 12 kilometers. This is 24 kilometers square play space. Pretty decently sized, I would say. So, and it runs fairly well. Needs improvement. Needs more stuff in it. Need to industrialize the frontier. So, yeah, this is one of definitely the biggest available play space right now at 24 kilometers squared. We're definitely thinking about making them bigger. We definitely have a plan for doing that. We just have to implement it. The only difference between getting the game done and not getting the game done is, or actually there is no not getting the game done, because realistically the only thing that's going to stop us is how much time and focus we can dedicate to the game. I mean, half the team right now is working other jobs, so that's kind of, what it is, kind of necessary right now. I'm out, I'm still looking for work, other work, so I'm not trying to rely on this to pay the bills just now. But we are trying to get this company off the ground, and it would be nice if it actually paid the bills. And if we can, basically get to make games for people to play and enjoy. This is something I've certainly wanted to do for quite a bit of my life, ever since I've picked up the StarCraft 2 campaign editor. So, this is the tutorial level right now. This may actually become the very first Frontiers Reach map. This is for the moon, Frontiers Reach, which orbits that gas giant. Lots of work to do. I also have a couple different maps for the Frontiers Reach planet, actually. This is like evening time, early morning, somewhere in there. So if you've never heard of it's a specific type of genre of art. It's called raypunk, and it's really not as specific as I just said, because it is pretty broad. But it has more to do with like science fiction that just is unexplainable. Like Star Wars is technically considered raypunk. Some people call it science fantasy. But this game definitely falls into the raypunk genre of content. So, if you're looking for a raypunk video game, this is one of them. The whole of the idea is to basically, like, I'm not gonna lie, I just wanted Crimson Skies and Starfighters. In Starfighter form, basically. And that's definitely one of the inspiration points is Crimson Skies. So, we're gonna have to start moving in the sort of space pirate direction eventually, but right now we're sort of establishing the idea in the universe and what it's going to mean moving forward. Boom. One of the reasons why I chose a kind of format where you don't fly between planets is, as cool as that is, I have no interest in making a game that's going to take me like 10 years of my life to make. I do have other games planned that I would like to work on, other iterations that I think would be interesting. Maybe in some time, years from now, that will be a reality that we can sort of look at. But right now, the goal is to pull out all of the long-term travel between missions and important things and just drop you right into the action. If you want to just fly around and do some repetitive stuff and chill out for a while, this map right here is what I call a patrol map, and it is a perfect place to do that. You can launch and land whenever you want. So let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to come over here. I want to say, is it this one? Tell you what I'll do. I assume it's still going to work. I don't think anything has changed, but I'm going to fire up a mission right quick. I'm going to open up this file. I'm going to play it in third person mode for you. Let's go back to our opening scene. Go ahead and maximize. Skip that. And I want to say we were on, was it Blargle? It was. Alright, go to our loadout. And I'm just gonna stick with this one. This is a good starfighter, in my opinion. It's definitely one of my favorites. Ignore that, I've got to fix that.
Initiating launch sequence over Jada. Altitude is 200 meters.
Not exactly the
Watch the
mission I wanted,
canyon
but
walls.
These canyons should help shield us from fire from the missile complexes on the hilltops. Just watch yourself, pilot. Now before the militia can land, we need to destroy at least 2 of the 3 power generators. That should disrupt internal systems enough to make invading it easier. All the defenses run on a separate power source that can operate for at least 12 hours. Long enough for backup to arrive and give us a headache while we try to take the place.
you're gonna see a little shadow clipping here on the camera. But that's because I'm still working out like camera positioning, clipping planes, and whether or not things are gonna fit into the cockpit the way I'm hoping they will. Still working out some shading issues ever since I'm actually coming back from experimenting with the high definition render pipeline, which didn't quite go the way I'd hoped, but I'm still kind of addressing some of the issues that were created in that whole process.
Generators are down. Comm frequencies are indicating that the interior is in chaos. No one knows what's happening. We need to move quickly, pilot. Get to the main facility and take out those turrets closest to the landing pad.
So in third-person mode, it definitely feels a lot more like an arcade game. It
Approaching
feels a little bit
thermal
more like
limitations.
Star Fox or something like that. Thinking for this particular view, I'd like to get some sort of HUD setup that would let you kind of like see your radar pings go out and then highlight objects. Should have pulled up faster.
Approaching thermal limitations.
Every time you die, get shot down or wrecked or some other form of death, the total cost of all of your equipment in Starfighter gets calculated and deducted from your salvage.
Warning. Excess heat accumulation detected.
Heard him behind me,
Approaching thermal limitations.
trying to put rounds on me.
Warning. Excess heat accumulation detected.
So as you probably noticed, the
Systems
frame rate isn't the
overheating.
best. I am playing in the Unity editor, and it has a lot of overhead. So if I was just playing the game on its own, it actually has no problem. And now that I have a
Warning.
programmer,
Excess heat
somebody who actually has a
accumulation
CS
detected.
degree, I would expect major optimizations to be coming. Because there's a lot of things that I do that are sort of like, it's stuff I did teaching myself how to code in my previous job, sort of meet the demands there. Wow, I should have just gone a complete other direction. Mid-air collision all the way.
Approaching thermal limitations.
I've got enemies on my tail, and they will base primary me if I don't try to fight them exactly. Or up front. If I don't,
Warning. Excess heat
you can focus
accumulation
on the enemies that
detected.
aren't paying attention to you, but if you do, you run the risk of getting shot down by enemies who are paying attention to you. You can try to chase them, but they are quite agile. This dude, he's gonna go to ground. Now he's gonna be behind me. Yeah, they're really coming after me.
Systems overheating. Approaching thermal limitations. Approaching thermal limitations.
Let's check this out. Turn off our gizmos here. Probably get some decent screenshots out of this. If I had a screenshot, something like pause the action, you know, move the camera around with. Might have to look at that as an option. Oop. I'll have to fix that damage decal. I'll have to go through all the damage states. Tell you what, let's do... Whoop, that's not what I wanted. What is that? Let's go back here.
Can't afford losses like that, pilot.
So if you lose three
I'm afraid
lives,
we have to abort.
fail the mission, plus it's, you know, basically, I also have to make it so it doesn't launch you again. You also lose the amount of salvage. So, make sure you bring the the right weapons for the right job. In this case, I'm going to bring this starfighter. We're going to use flak rockets.
Initiating launch sequence over Jar Jar. Altitude is 200 meters. Watch the canyon walls.
These canyons should help shield us from fire from the missile complexes on the hilltop. Just watch yourself, pilot. Now before the militia can land, we need to destroy at least 2 of the 3 power generators.
Approaching
That should
thermal
disrupt internal
limitations.
systems enough to make invading
Thermal
easier.
maximums breached.
All the defenses run off a separate power source that can operate for at least 12 hours. Long enough for
Systems
backup to
overheating.
arrive and give us a headache while we try to take the
Detecting
place.
extreme thermals.
Come on. What's this gonna do? What it always does when it first bakes out textures.
Systems overheating.
Looks like I got one. damaged a few.
Systems overheating.
That's precisely what these missiles are made for. Or these rockets, I should say.
Systems overheating. Thermal maximums breach. Approaching thermal limitations.
These things have turrets on them.
Systems overheating. Extreme temperatures detected. Please vent heat immediately. Systems overheating.
I'm gonna go ahead and
Approaching
abort this, and we're gonna go check out a different starfighter. Excuse me. My ankle is getting sat on. This is one of my favorites, personally. I'm still working on the flight the performance characteristics. I guess is probably the best thing to call it. Let's see here. I'm gonna go back to 100mm guided, and then I think the modules are fine. I want to go to patrols though.
Initiating launch sequence over planet Frontiers Reach.
Fully patrol duties this morning, pilot. I'll leave the hangar bay open so you can land whenever you like. Give them what for.
Warning. Excess heat accumulation detecting extreme thermals. Systems overheating. Thermal maximums breached. Warning. Excess heat accumulation detected. Approaching thermal limitations. Systems overheating.
Oh, come on. Looks like I've already got people on my tail. Got one.
Approaching thermal limitations. Others at 80%. Approaching thermal limitations. Thermal maximums reached.
These new clouds are a little bit
Warning.
heftier than usual, I think.
Excess heat accumulation detected.
Boy, they look really good.
Approaching thermal limitations.
I think these are actually screen space clouds, but they've got, I don't know, they seem like they've got some sort of volumetric effect to them as well. Again, apologize for the performance. I am playing in the editor, and I am streaming, so. I do have a little bit of an older rig, so something to keep in
Excess
mind.
heat accumulation. Approaching thermal limitations. Extreme temperatures detected. Please vent heat immediately. Extreme temperatures detected. Please vent heat immediately. Systems overheating.
Didn't make it through. I'm not sure if this thing's small enough to fit through there. I could be wrong. I would think so. But the wide wingspan may just be the thing that's going to do it in. It does indeed have a pretty wide wingspan. But, you know, this is where the game is. I've got more work to do. This is, a lot of the stuff you saw today is going to get, actually, a lot of the stuff you see right now is going to get, it's not going to be, it's not in the game currently, it will be this week, this Friday. I do updates on Fridays, and all of what you just saw here will be available on Friday. So if you're looking for a new game to get into, something that's going to have continuous updates, this is it. Or this is one of them. And I hope you choose it. Because I need feedback, and it would be nice to have people to take on this adventure with me, who are really just along for the ride. Because the ride is part of it. And it's definitely one of the things I want to focus on. For now, stay warm, fly safe, and I'll see you around.